Everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gamey Daddy channel. So I'm in Division 1 and I'm actually waiting in the off chance that I'll find somebody to play Falcon Lost with on matchmaking. I was going to go into Division Discord to ask, but then for some strange reason I got carried away and I was just sitting there looking at my agent on the screen, and then I was like, wait, why not just make a video about something that I feel is pertinent? Because on my way back from work, I literally just got back from work, and I was watching a video by a fellow content creator and bro, Identity, about Outriders and its endgame not being something that's available or enough to keep players grinding and going on unless the developers take a different approach. And in that video, I think it was quite enlightening, a lot of the things that he said. And I will encourage you to take some time to watch it if you play Outriders and The Division, or if you play, or if you've ever thought about playing either of the games and you've been playing, say, the other one, if you get what I mean. Now, here's the thing about, RPG looter shooters and how they've been able to present something to gaming communities over the past few years. So Diablo, World of Warcraft, a lot of these games were able to bring something unique where people could continue to foster a gaming community and gaming relationships with their friends. And there was always a target and an end goal to these games. So you were constantly looking for something new. Now, instead of these games constantly bringing new content, we can get really expensive in the terms of saying, oh, let's bring new missions and all this stuff. I've seen a lot of comments to that, like, if there are no new missions, I'm not playing this game anymore. And I get it, playing the old missions could be boring for some people. For some other people, it definitely is not boring, and I'll touch on that if I have some time at the end of this video. But these games basically brought a community of people together. In fact, I know a couple that are in our social circle that met through World of Warcraft. They were online buddies and eventually, became friends, and then eventually started to, travel to go visit one another, and eventually got married, and they've been married for several years, which is the coolest story that I've ever heard. Because, when they visited us, one time we had a new baby, and they came and brought us, dinner, and they said, yeah, we met over World of Warcraft, in such a casual way that I said, y'all sit down and tell me this story. So this is what these games were actually kind of designed to achieve in part. I'm not saying that was their entire focus. And so in order to continue to foster these relationships, games like these brought a lot of these community activities to the table. Raids, builds, or gear or items that could be farmed with a chance of getting a better variation or a more stronger one. And these things kept being added to these games. And so the culture kind of developed around that. That's one of the reasons that I think The Division somewhat thrived and is still thriving today in its PvE aspect. And I understand a lot of people, love to talk about the PvP side of things. And I think a lot of where this comes from, and, forgive me if I sound a little shallow in my analysis here, is, if you look at the traditional RPG looter shooters, a lot of them, were more of the medieval sword and shield and arrows and all that. But just in the past, I would say in the more recent decade, let's not say in the past few years, some other games started to take it and put the gunplay to it in much more outlandish ways. I think you can point to Borderlands. But here's the thing. Borderlands did not see it fit to dare touch a PvP side of things, in my opinion. I think what they, those games decided to do was in the spirit of what games like Diablo and maybe older, MMOs had achieved. They wanted to do something similar, but then add a fun action slant to it. So this is what I think they were actually, that these games were actually trying to do. It wasn't until a few games, and then for a more mainstream title in the last console generation, that we got to see a game of the scope and magnitude of Tom Clancy's The Division, having a big brand name and being a shooter. And a lot of people, basically rallied around that stuff. And he brought people from even the good old RPG community and people from the shooter community. And then you start to see that gaming was requiring a lot more expectations than, say, what your traditional RPGs or, your traditional co-op MMOs would look like. And so The Division was kind of like a game trying to test out the waters to see how all of this stuff was going to, pan out. And if you even look at, say, how The Division, even as a very busted game when it came out, how did it keep a lot of its community engaged for its lifespan, for the most part of its lifespan. Now, in terms of PvP, I can't necessarily speak too much as to how and why a lot of PvP players still continue to play. I mean, I can say for sure, I remember the drama. I remember, for many people, the fun of just watching people run through the dark zone. And I consumed as much PvP videos as some PvP players actually played PvP. For many of you who don't know, I knew all of the big shots in PvP from the Division 1, and I watched them religiously because the drama was funny to watch. I just watched people just decimate other people and do all this nonsense in the DZ. And, I thought that was quite interesting, even though I didn't play. So I could see that as one aspect of, from just the viewer perspective and from someone not even playing, right? And then, you can even go out and say, okay, perhaps, the PvE side, okay, how did they eventually do that? In my case, I can tell you that as a PvE player, there was a side of, constantly looking and hunting for gear. But then at the end of the day, what happened when you got all the gear? Were you just farming for better versions of gear? Even after they put the optimization station, some of us still played for a very long period of time. How and why did we continue playing? What was the draw? What was the pulling point? I have to tell you that for me, just the fact that you can just play a game with people and just have a community of agents, whether or not they know each other, just strive for the same end goal, was enough for me to sink in extra hundreds of hours on the Division 2. Note that the Division 2 was, or sorry, I said Division 2, the Division in a whole, the Division 1 game. And I didn't start playing on PC for a while, and I didn't start making YouTube videos until several months after the release of the game. So it wasn't a matter of saying playing content, or making content that was my major driver. No, it was a matter of just having that community to run with. Because yes, there were specific things that I wanted, say your classified gear sets, but I got all those because there were people lined up in peers to be able to do that. In fact, I logged in, and on my friends list, there were two people that were still playing just now. Look at them on here. This person, Moving the Ricks, I don't remember if they're from Division 2. I met them. No, it's from Division 1. This is probably like another character that they have. And Quantic I met in the Division 1, and this is their Division 1 character. And they are right now, in Carrier, and the other person's in Base of Operations. They are currently playing the game. And, work is not yet out in North America for a lot more people. So when work gets out, probably maybe one or two more people. But in the Division 1, Division 2 servers, a lot more people are there here on PC. And so when you kind of think about how these games have actually been able to do this, it goes to say that there's something really nice about that loop. And it brings me back to, full circle to what Identity has spoken about in his video, saying the end game just doesn't seem like, the expeditions didn't seem like they were enough. And, I think he may be onto something. I saw a comment on one of my videos today that said Outriders worked up a thirst it couldn't quench. And I think what they tried to do was they tried to take the middle road of establishing games like these. And the problem is games like these have no middle ground. You have to provide an open loop when you have a looter game, else your game is going to have that thirst from your players that you're not going to be able to quench, because you started the game out as, hey, why don't you get these gear items and all that stuff? And then once the person gets much more powerful, what are they going to be doing with their friends? What are they going to be, what are they going to be running around doing? And I think all those questions, Outriders maybe did not prepare to answer them. And so that's why right now you're going to start seeing a lot of, videos saying, yeah, I'm no longer playing Outriders, or yeah, Outriders needs to have something that actually adds more to it, because there really isn't any. And to be very fair and to be honest, I think it shows the genius of games like Borderlands, the genius of games like Destiny, and to the more infamous among its community, or no, some portion of its community, not all its community, because many of us like The Division, and that The Division, it showed that there was something that the developers from The Division took from, from, say, more established games, and that was a core open loop. The execution of that open loop, yes, it had to have its own unique take. Like in The Division, we use real guns, real world setting, and then sci-fi skills to accomplish this stuff. So for many people, that's a little awkward. But I think that's the draw for its own audience. But nonetheless, don't be fooled. You can still come back and play The Division to fulfill whichever goals you want. Now, again, this so-called community thing, and you may ask me, well, why is it not existing in a game like Outriders? Why is it people are still leaving? Well, it's because Outriders did not provide the one thing that actually helps build and reinforce the community, and that is the grind. Believe it or not, the grind is a good thing. Okay. Now you may say, but how is the grind even a good thing? Like, where did you get that from? Well, it's in the grind that you meet people. It's in the grind that you basically get oriented with the community and spending time with the community. You see, Outriders, I don't know how long its playtime has been. From the demo, people were playing sporadically, and then they were able to pour all that progress into the real game. And Identity mentioned this in his game. And I think that kind of broke that communal grinding that a lot of people kind of build and, pretty much reinforce together. Let me give you the Division's grindy, the Division's grind loops that it did. So when the Division 1 first came out, it brought out Falcon Lost as one of its end games, right? Now, it got glitched. People basically... Oh, somebody joined my group. Oh my gosh. I'm going. And, it pretty much, brought a lot of people together to glitch it. That's what happened. So people all glitched it together. It was fun for them. I didn't even go to end game by the time people had already patched it. And then you also had other things like, say, trying to get the barrage chess piece over here at Lexington Event Center, where people ran hundreds and hundreds of these in order to get that one piece. It was this grind that I can tell you for certain allowed for people to get that bonding that was necessary. So some days they didn't even have to be grinding for anything. They just logged in and played with their friends. You see, if a game misses out on this aspect in any sense and calls itself a looter, it's going to hit the ground hard once all of the, the pizzazz and all the flair and all the hype dies. And that's why I'm making this video on the 30th of April about a game that came out on the 1st of April. In fact, a month after the Division came out, we weren't arguing about nothing to do. If you wanted to really take time and say, okay, what were we arguing about in the first 30 days of the Division? It was arguing about preference. People were talking about how Marco's style was burned out. People were saying, well, we don't know if we like the control point system. The difficulty was too hard. And, we need our title basin endgame ASAP. The person left. It's okay. I guess I don't know why they left. I don't know what it is that they left for, but it's what it is. But if you kind of go back and think about it, the Division, Borderlands, Destiny, these games, I think they got that right. And Outriders tried to leave that on the table and not encounter that. I'm not saying they did it wrong, but like that comment said on my video, they've inspired a thirst that their game right now is not able to quench. They may be able to quench it over, maybe the course of a few months. But at the end of the day, most players that have already experienced this, this community building thing are going to go back and play the Division or go back and play another game that has that with them. And I know I'm going to get the one sarcastic comment that says, no, I'm not going back to the Division. That's fine. We get it. You already hate the game and, there's nothing to do, all that stuff. We get it. But if content drops for the Division, I can tell you that the optic is definitely going to be much bigger than a lot of people are trying to, downplay it for. People are going to be coming back, man. And I've seen it many times in the community where, there's nothing, people leave. And then once something shows up, people come check it out. Or they come, find their friends, dust off their clan names and all that stuff. And then they want to engage in the content. But let me get out of your hair. I don't know why that person left the group. I guess I'll matchmake for a legendary. That might be much more likely to find somebody to play. Let's see if I can get a legendary in today because, man, I'm really itching for a Division legendary to hear some of the soundtracks and stuff. Talk to you guys in another video. Thank you so much. Peace out.